did they move it? Did they move it now? Okay.
We'll call the meeting to order for Thursday, March 25th, 6 p.m. And this evening, we're going to start it off with election of officers.
That's correct.
Before we start anything else?
Yes, please.
Okay. So with the election of officers, we will make a motion for a new chair and a new vice chair.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So is there, do I just need to call for any of the commissioners to make a motion?
That is correct, Chairman Munzer. At this point, you may call for any of the commissioners to make a motion to be the chair, and then we will request a second, and then a vote, and then the new chair would ask for a vice chair.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, so we'll go ahead and I'll entertain a motion. If there's no motion, I'm willing to make a motion myself. And I would make the motion to have Commissioner Huboy as the chair and Commissioner Stevens as a vice chair.
I accept the nomination.
Sure, I'll accept the nomination as well.
Okay, they both have accepted the nomination. Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, would you like to see roll call?
If we do by roll call, please, Mr. Chairman. Thank
Can
you.
we have a roll call vote on the motion?
Absolutely. Commissioner Roxanne Stevens,
Aye.
Commissioner David Huboy,
Aye.
Commissioner Seth Munzer,
Aye.
Commissioner Salvador Mora,
Aye.
Commissioner Jose Fernandez.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, congratulations to the new officers.
I want to
you.
thank, I'd like to thank Seth for doing a great job as our chairman for last term.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, agree. Good job, Matt.
Great job. Thank you very much. And it's good to be back in the saddle. Thank you very much. And congratulations to you, Roxanne. Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. On the agenda here. May I have verification of agenda posting, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The agenda for tonight's Planning Commission was posted on Friday, March 19th, 2021 at 12:03 p.m.
Thank you, Abraham.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Stevens, will you lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Roxanne. Can I have roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Roxanne Stevens. Present.
Sorry, I'm here.
Very well. Thank you. Commissioner David Huboy.
Here.
Commissioner Seth Munzer.
Here.
Commissioner Salvador Mora.
Here.
And Commissioner Jose Fernandez.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we go to communications from the public on items not listed on the agenda. Do we have any speaker cards, Abraham?
We do not have any speaker cards at this time from any member of the audience, and for the communications for the public, and we do not have any hands raised on our panelists at this time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We go go into public hearings. Item number 1, Site and Architectural Review 2020-1, Conditional Use Permit 2021-3, VMI Architecture. The applicant is requesting to demolish the existing 2,851 square foot drive-through restaurant building and is seeking site and architectural approval to construct a new 1,997 square foot drive-through restaurant building with outdoor dining area on a 0.84 acre, equivalent to 36,667 square feet lot. In addition, the applicant is requesting conditional use permit for the consideration of a parking reduction. The property is located in the North Gateway zoning district at 40 San Felipe Road, further identified as San Benito County Assessor Parcel Number 053-370-032. CEQA is categorically exempt. Abraham, do you have a staff report on this?
Thank you, Chairperson Huboy. Before we go on to the staff report, Commissioner Munzer gracefully pointed out that we did not take action on the minutes. Would you like to move forward on item 1, or would you like to go back on the minutes for action on the minutes at this time?
Okay, I will call for action on the minutes, and the action of the minutes is dated, can I have the date on that?
February 25th, 2021.
February 25th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
There's a motion for approval.
I'll second it.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Minutes are approved. Okay, we go into public hearing. A public hearing, item number 1, staff report, please.
Yes, thank you. Our Associate Planner, Amber Cameron, will be giving the staff report for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. As mentioned, the applicant is requesting a site and architectural approval to demolish the existing 2,851 square foot drive-through restaurant building and constructing a new 1,997 square foot drive-through restaurant with an outdoor dining area on a 36,667 square foot lot at 40 San Felipe Road, which is located east of San Felipe Road and north of Santa Ana and North Gateway zoning district of the city of Hollister. The proposed drive-through restaurant will operate 7 days a week. The restaurant's dine-in hours will operate between the hours of 7 a.m. to 11:30 p.m., with the exception of Friday and Saturday evenings, when the restaurant will remain open until 12 a.m. The drive-through hours throughout the week will be 7 a.m. through 12 a.m., with the exception of Friday and Saturday, when the drive-through will be open until 1 a.m. There will be a single 12 to 13-foot drive-through lane that will have the availability to queue up to 9 vehicles in total. This exceeds the requirement of the sufficient stacking area to accommodate a minimum of 6 vehicles per section 17.22.090 of the Hollister Municipal Code. The elevations, the main body of the building will be finished in a gray horizontal siding and will be trimmed in dark gray. Several of the elevations will feature large panel windows, which are highlighted by purple paneling. The same purple paneling is featured on the north and south elevations, serving as accent walls. The eastern elevation will face San Felipe. A 23-foot corner tower will be constructed on the left side of the building. It is proposed to be covered in weathered rustic panels with signage at the top. The main siding of this will be gray horizontal siding and trimmed in dark gray. This elevation will feature a man door with 3 large glass windows and 4 small rectangular windows above. All the windows will have a black metal awning. The windows will be framed with purple paneling above and gray paneling below. The northern elevation will face the parking lot of the subject parcel and will serve as the main entry point of the restaurant. This elevation features 2 large windows also framed with purple and gray paneling. A metal canopy will divide the window from the top 2 panels. Towards the center of the elevation will be a tower that architecturally defines the entrance of the building. The 20-foot tower will be finished in dark gray paneling. 2 glass doors with a large rectangular window that spans the length of the door will be placed at the center. Above this window will be a metal canopy with the restaurant signage placed above it. 2 exterior lights will be placed on either side of the entrance doors. Towards the right of the main entry, there will be a purple and gray accent wall constructed with 3 sections of panels. The first 2 sections will provide a space for a large exterior mural with 2 exterior lights above it. The third section will be a man door with exterior downward casting lights above it. There is proposed to be an outdoor seating area located on the north side of the property. Next slide, please. The western elevation of the building will face the western parking lot drive-through aisle. The main siding of the building will be gray horizontal siding. The 13-foot tall walk-in cooler and freezer finished vertically in dark gray siding. The applicant is proposing to place the gas meters on the lower right-hand side of the building. We have mentioned that this shall be screened within our conditions of approval. The southern elevation of the building will face towards Quick Stop and is the side of the building where the drive-through pickup window will be located. This elevation features 3 separate sections of panels with gray downspouts in between them. The first section will be made up of a single purple panel. This section will provide a location for an exterior mural with exterior lighting fixtures above it. The second panel will have 3 subsections, each with dark gray and purple rectangular paneling, The first subsection will provide for an additional exterior mural location with exterior lighting above it. The second and third subsection will feature the pickup window with a metal awning above it. The third section of paneling that frames 2 rectangular windows with purple paneling above the window and dark gray paneling below it. The 23-foot tower wraps around to this elevation and is proposed to be covered in weathered rustic panels with signage on top. Next slide, please. Landscaping consists of trees, shrubs, oriental grasses, and ground cover is proposed around the perimeter of the site and within the medians and end caps throughout the parking lot. The applicant is proposing to landscape 12,590 square feet, which is about 34.1% of the 36,915.4 square foot parcel. Per section 1708.020, table 17.08-3, commercial district development regulations, the applicant meets and exceeds the 5% landscaping required. The existing building and site will be demolished, but will have new landscaping proposed. Perimeter trees will be preserved where feasible. The landscape design concept for the site is to provide an enjoyable and aesthetic space for customers that fits within the landscape framework of the existing surrounding landscape. The plant material has been selected that will perform well in the special conditions of the city of Hollister area, known as Sunset Zone 14. The majority of the landscaping will be planted on site, but where it needs to be removed and replaced, it will be. Existing healthy trees will remain. And where the trees have been overgrown, they will be pruned and shaped to allow for more lighting. Low hardy trees and shrubs and ground cover are proposed for the landscape around the site. The landscaping and associated irrigation will be designed to be compliant with the City of Hollister's water efficient landscape ordinance. Next slide, please. The 2 project driveways along San Felipe are limited to right in and right out movements. To discourage vehicles from making a left-hand turn into and out of the project site, the Starbucks project across the street, also known as Site and Architectural 2019-18, was conditioned to install flexible delineators or similar vertical barriers within the median of San Felipe Road, adjacent to the project site as a temporary measure, and to enter into a deferred improvement agreement for improvements including a raised median. The project applicant has been conditioned to install the flexible delineators or similar vertical barriers within the median of San Felipe should this project be constructed first, or shall contribute a fair share of the cost for the median installation if Starbucks project goes first. The patrons of the establishment can enter the subject site at the northeastern driveway. The drive aisle in front of the restaurant will be marked with two-way traffic, which will allow patrons to utilize the parking stalls to reverse and make a right turn onto San Felipe. The drive aisle changes to one way past the restaurant's primary parking, which gives the patrons the opportunity to enter the drive-through or allows them to circle the outer perimeter. This one way merges into a two-way drive aisle that is shared between the proposed project and the adjacent business Quick Stop. This leads to the southeast driveway. The second driveway will allow for patrons to make a right turn onto San Felipe Road. Cars entering the site from the driveway can utilize a one-way connection to the north, which allows access to parking and the drive-through lane. The applicant is proposing two drive-through lanes, one which will be the single lane, 12 feet to 13 feet drive-through that will be available to queue up to 9 vehicles. Again, this meets and exceeds the minimum requirement of 6 vehicles per section 17.22.090. The second featured drive-through will remain integrated into the proposed landscape until such a time that the applicant has determined the need for a second drive-through aisle to split traffic. Next slide, please. Based upon the city's municipal code and the parking requirements established for fast food counter service use, the project is required to provide the greater of the following two requirements. One requirement is either 5 spaces plus 1 space for every 3 seats in the dining area, or 5 spaces plus 1 space for each 100 square feet of gross floor area. As shown in this table, applying the greater of the two requirements would require that the project provide 25 parking spaces. Based upon the city's municipal code and the California Building Code 11B-502, 1 accessible space is required if the required parking spaces are between 1 to 25 parking spaces, but the ADA spaces may be counted within that total. The existing parking layout of the restaurant currently has 43 existing parking stalls. The applicant is proposing a total of 20 parking stalls. Sorry, could you move to the next slide, please? Thank you so much. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow for a reduction in the parking spaces from 25 to 20. They have provided vehicle counts taken from the restaurant in operation, which indicates that 25 parking spaces are excessive for what is needed. The applicant has also expressed that their location sees more drive-through traffic than in-store customers. The applicant has also indicated that they are proposing a large reduction in hardscape in order to provide landscape areas which allow them to meet the stormwater requirements. Next slide, please. In regards to their bicycle parking, per table 17.18-1, off-street parking and bicycle spaces required by land use of the Hollister Municipal Code for fast food or counter service requires that the applicant is to provide 5% of the required number of vehicle spaces as bicycle spaces. The applicant is required to provide a total of 25 parking spaces, 5% of that, of that total would end up being 1.5 spaces for bicycle parking. The applicant is required to provide a minimum of one. The applicant meets and exceeds the required number of bicycle parking spaces by providing 3 hooped bicycle racks, which can accommodate up to 6 bikes, 2 per rack. The trash enclosure is proposed at the northwest corner of the lot. The enclosure will be 20 feet in length, 12 feet in width, and 6 feet in height, and will be constructed out of CMU with concrete plaster painted to match the building. The trash enclosure will have an 18-gauge painted metal gate, which will be painted to match the building's trim, and a man door. A metal roof will be added to the top of the enclosure. Next slide, please. So the next few items are just going to reflect some of the discussions that took place at the February 25th Planning Commission meeting. The following items and how each of them were addressed by the applicant will be shown on the screen. One, the issue that was raised in regards to having the parapets raised so that they will screen the roof equipment. The parapet wall was revised on the elevations as described and does now screen any rooftop equipment. Number 2, 2 ADA compliant parking spaces at the front entrance of the restaurant were asked for. The applicant has revised the plan set to indicate this accordingly. Next slide, please. The Planning Commission was in support of granting a conditional use permit for a reduction in required parking for the project. They requested that the applicant remove the 4 parallel parking stalls located on the northern property line and provide a reciprocal access agreement for 4 parking stalls located on the south boundary on the Quick Stop property. The applicant has removed the parallel parking stalls in the revised plan set. The applicant is currently proposing 2 new parallel parking stalls along the drive-through aisle where the loading zone was previously. The loading zone has now been relocated to be near the trash enclosure. The applicant has indicated that the loading and trash pickup schedule will not be a conflict. City staff would recommend the removal of the 2 parallel parking stalls and keeping the project at a total of 18 on-site parking stalls as recommended at the Planning Commission on February 25th. There is currently no recorded reciprocal access agreement for the 4 parking stalls located on the Quick Stop property to the south. Per the Hollister Municipal Code, off-site parking spaces cannot be counted towards the parking requirement for this project. If the Planning Commission elects to approve the project as proposed with a conditional use permit, the project site would be receiving a parking reduction of 7 parking spaces from 25 required to 18. The applicant has submitted an application for a conditional use permit along the side of the previously submitted site and architectural application for consideration. Next slide, please. One of the last items that was asked is to provide a cost for the undergrounding and the overhead utilities and installation of a future median as the part of the ultimate improvements of San Felipe Road. The city's engineering department has provided an estimate for these costs, which is approximately $195,000. There is a revised condition of approval to indicate that the applicant shall pay the city for the estimated cost of these improvements and that the requirement for a future deferred improvement agreement has been eliminated. Next slide, please. The City of Hollister's 2005 through 2023 general plan designates this site as a North Gateway commercial site. The North Gateway commercial designates this area to intend to foster an attractive entry to the City of Hollister by featuring commercial and service-oriented businesses, along with high employment uses, such as office parks. The project is consistent with the North Gateway commercial general plan designation. in North Gateway Commercial Zoning District. And with that, staff recommends that the City's Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal, and make the following motions. 1, adopt a resolution approving site and architectural review 2021, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution. And 2, adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit 2021-3, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution. Are there any questions for staff?
Thank you, Amber. Any questions on the staff report? With no questions, we'll go into the public hearing now at 6:25. Any speaker cards on this item?
Thank you, Chairperson Huboy. We have members of the panelist audience online, but we do not have any hands raised. Actually, we do. We do have one. We have Philip Moss. Mr. Moss, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to point out a couple of things here that we need to iron out. One is that we are proposing, we actually reduced the seating now down to 24 seats. So we feel that the parking that we're asking for the exception to is adequate parking for this location. So we hope that you can grant the exception and the for the conditional use permit. We did, and I have to say that the purple that's shown on the elevations is substantially brighter than it actually is in person. So I'm a little concerned that that purple is just shockingly purple. It's toned down a little bit. The main discussion is 2 points. It's condition number 32 and condition number 33. And this wraps around with the median that's being proposed that we actually pay for our fair share. And I would like to have, I think it's number 33, which says that we will also, besides putting up a median and putting money up for the underground utilities, pay our fair share for putting up these plastic dividers. I think that's, as we say, going to the well too many times, or overburdening us with these conditions. We shouldn't have to pay for a median and also have to pay for the diverter, the plastic diverters in the meantime. So we would like to have that condition struck from the staff report and the resolution. It's also our understanding with discussions with the traffic engineer or public works director today that it is planned, and we always had a problem with having this median because it cuts down traffic coming to our site substantially. We were told today that there are plans for U-turns at both Maple Street and Fiora Avenue. If that's the case, and that goes on record, then we're fine. We'll pay for our share of the median, and we'll step back on our concerns about that. So we're hoping that we wanted to put that in the record of our agreeing to these conditions, is that with those conditions in the discussion today, that there will be allowed to be turnarounds at those 2 locations, or U-turns allowed at those 2 locations. And actually, we did provide the city with a reciprocal access agreement with our neighbor's property. So we also want to let you know that we understand the city's encouraging us to use those reciprocal agreements to adequately allow circulation around our site. We have one that goes east-west, that goes all the way from San Felipe to the back of our site with the Quick Mart. So we do share a lot of cross-access agreements, and we know that the city wants to encourage us to use those. Again, I think that's the only thing at this point that we have a concern about, the fact that we've agreed to pay $195,000 up front for these improvements for the street undergrounding and the median. So again, I hope that you guys can strike the plastic, our contribution to these little plastic dividers. It's just my client feels that he's paying enough, and he agrees to the median finally, and we can move on from this. Also, I just wanted to point out the existing restaurant has 64 seats, and we're cutting it down to 24. So we're actually reducing the seating on the site by 40. So that's really it. That's all I have. I know that the owner of the property, Dan Carter, is also on the phone.
Any questions for Mr. Moss? So, Mr. Moss, when you talked about the reciprocal easement, you say that is in effect then regarding the 4 parking stalls off the property line?
Right. It doesn't specifically address those specifically, nothing about parking in the reciprocal agreement. It's all about access. I don't want to mislead you there. It's access, an agreement that we actually cross the Quick Mart site, and they have access from San Felipe to the back of our property for about 20 feet from the shared property line. So there's a substantial amount of cross-access agreements on this one. And also in 1985, just so you know, in 1985, we have a recorded agreement with the city that we would pay for our fair share of the street improvements for the undergrounding utilities. So that's been in place. Now we've come to an amount, and we're willing to pay the amount.
Well, okay, without any further questions for Mr. Moss, thank you, Philip. I appreciate your presentation here.
Thank you.
You're
Mute myself.
Anyone else in the audience
We have,
here to
Da-
speak on the item?
Mr. Chair, we have Daniel Carter. Dan, can you hear us? Hello, Dan. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, perfect. Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
okay. More than a question, a statement. We went weeks super confused on this median. I hope that in the future we do a better job as a community of informing people what's going on. To give a little bit of thumbs up to Abraham, he reached out to me today, and we were able to clear things up quite rapidly just by communicating. I don't feel that was happening previously. So thank you, Abraham. I really appreciate it. It allowed all of us to move forward. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Anyone else care to speak on this item?
We have no more hands raised, Chairperson Huboy.
With no further speakers, I close the public hearing now at 6:33. Bring it back to the commission for discussion. I will say that there's been some, regarding the parking, and now I understand that according to Mr. Moss, there's 24 seats for the proposed Taco Bell restaurant, and the existing now is 64, according to Mr. Moss. We had 60 on the drawings. If you take the 60 and you divide that into what the 43 stalls from the existing layout, and now the proposed, you take like the 20 and divide that by the 28 or 24. Actually, I took 28. Come out with 0.71, which is exactly what was there existing this year. I think it's worth noting that the square footage of the new restaurant is smaller. The landscaping is larger. And the reality is that although that from the staff report that the reciprocal easement was not into effect at the time we reviewed the packet, the practicality, the reality of it is that those 4 stalls, they will be used either for the quick stop or for the restaurant. So I really don't have any issue with the parking. I would be in favor of the conditional use permit regarding parking. I applaud the applicant and staff for working on some of these recommendations from our last meeting. And I'm happy to see that a lot of them went into effect, such as the handicap stalls and raising the parapet wall to disguise the roof equipment. Any other comments from my fellow commissioners regarding the request from the applicant regarding condition number 33, the cost of the plastic dividers? Roxanne?
What is the cost of those? Does anybody know?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
What is the cost of the plastic dividers?
What is the cost of plastic dividers? I defer that to perhaps, is it Mark, the Public Works? Mark, can you?
Hi,
answer
I
that?
don't know. Let me see if I can do a little digging while you guys continue to chat, but I don't know what the cost of the dividers are. What I will say is that those are an immediate, relatively inexpensive improvement that can be done to achieve the safety measures of eliminating a left turn at that location without having to do a major project or a portion of a major project. And that's why they were conditioned on Starbucks, and that's why we've asked Taco Bell to pay their half of it. But let me see if I can dig for a little bit of pricing on those.
Yeah, just to add, Chairperson Huboy, or just to reaffirm what Mark indicated, is the Starbucks across the street, where it's basically the former Jerry's restaurant, is now going to become a Starbucks, and they were conditioned to actually put the delineators. However, if for some reason Starbucks is held back or stalls, then if Taco Bell goes first, then they are required to put them. But if Starbucks continues and proceeds and puts them first, then this condition basically just says that they will pay, Taco Bell will pay their fair share of the delineators to offset the cost of Starbucks putting them in.
So if I understand what you just said, right, if Starbucks go first, they carry the burden of the whole cost?
Of the whole cost, but then Taco Bell would just put in their half of their portion of it. Yeah.
And if Taco Bell goes first, they would pay for their portion and be reimbursed from Starbucks for the...
Correct. If Taco Bell goes first, then they will put it on, and then Starbucks, correct me if I'm wrong, Amber, but then Starbucks would pay their half at that time.
That's correct.
So I have a few questions for staff, just so that I am clear about the issue with the delineators and the medium. So my first question is the expectation that both the median and the delineators go up, and that both Starbucks and Taco Bell are I guess expected to help to cover those costs? Or is it that the delineators are there temporarily until the medium goes up and then they're taken off? So that's for my first question.
It's the latter.
Okay. So my second question then is, so the amount of the $195,000 that's in the report, so would there then be an expectation that be the total cost for everything, the delineators and the medium, or that is just simply for the medium?
That cost is actually for the undergrounding of the overhead lines and the median. So and half of the cost for the median.
So that,
because they are
that
split into
cost does not include the delineators then?
No, because we would anticipate that cost being paid upfront to install the delineators now, because the median may not go in for years. Until there's a project. The cost for the median and the cost for the median is not a cost if we were to do just this section by itself. That would cost more than what we're asking for. What we're anticipating is that this median would be installed as part of a larger project so that we would get some economy of scale and that we can ask Taco Bell for less, and Starbucks, quite frankly, for less of a contribution. Does that clear it up?
Yeah. I guess my only concern is that I would have preferred to have seen the issue of the delineator also included in the report, and that the cost that was estimated include that, so that everything is kind of there. I kind of feel like if we don't have all the information tonight, having to make a decision about the delineators, it kind of, I don't know, I feel uncomfortable doing that. Now, if we had a little bit more information, for example, what are the costs, and then how would those costs be covered if we were to authorize the request just made during public comment? How would that get paid, and what would be the amount? I mean, if we could get that clear, if we could get that information tonight, then I think that would help. But I would have preferred to have had that included in the report so that we can, make a fully informed decision moving forward. So is it possible to get that information? Do you have that, Mark?
I'm trying to get my hands on it. I don't have it handy, so I am trying to get my hands on it though.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I know that you have closed the public hearing, but we do have the applicant and the franchisee who spoke earlier, Philip Moss and Daniel Carter, with their hands raised. It is up to you if you would like to reopen the public hearing and allow them to speak. In the meantime, it's up to you and the commission.
Yes, I will give the authorization to go ahead and let Mr. Moss speak again.
Thank you.
Unless there's an exception, unless I hear an exception from the commission. Go ahead, Mr. Moss.
Okay, thank you very much. It has to do with the delineators, and that's why I'll keep this brief just to that subject. The cost of just the plastic and putting them in is not the issue for us. It's the engineering, the safety, the cost of closing down or partially closing down the road. So there's a lot there to it. We agreed to pay all this money up front so we wouldn't have to deal with the small things. I don't believe, and this is a question I'm surprised nobody's asked, is was Starbucks required to put their fair share up front on their approvals, as we are? So that's really all I have to say. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm just curious. They had to pay their fair share up front. So I'll be quiet now. Thank you.
Mr. Carter?
I feel similar. As my statement before, I believe that this whole process, if given light to both you guys there and us in our seats here, we could have made decisions and worked together, but it was this big mystery. And it's the big mystery that's caused all the problems. We've actually, I hate throwing anyone under the bus, but there were several emails, at least one that I read recently, that asked Mark specifically about the confirmation of the median, where it was going to be, what it was going to be. We were being asked to make decisions about a business that we could have been completely walled in and had no idea how to survive in. So I agree with what Philip Moss said. I feel like it's kind of double dipping if it's not in that estimate, and that it's better suited for something for the city to handle because they have all the facilities and capacities to do so. And I feel that everyone needs to do the best they can just to be fair and equitable to each other. So I ask that the city look at that and figure out a way to represent a business that's been there paying taxes for 30 years, versus a new business that came in and is brand new, obviously should share more burden than someone that's been there and running with no restrictions until now. So that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Carter. Public hearing is now closed. It's back to the commission. You know, we've gone so far with this, and a lot of these issues have been addressed. It would have been helpful to have had more information about these delineators and waiting to get an estimate, cost estimate on this. I hate to hold this project up when it's come along this far. Any other comments regarding the condition number 33?
I thought one of the items that we were going to bring back, and that's why we're having this meeting with them tonight, was the cost of those items and the delineals. That's the only comment that I have.
I'm sorry, it's hard to hear you, Seth. Can you repeat that, please? Or
I thought one of the questions that we had brought up from the last meeting on February 25th was to include the cost of the delineals, so that way we could make an informed decision this evening.
you think we're ready to make a decision without the cost of these delineators?
No, that's the discussion that I thought we had at the last meeting, so that way we had a clear direction on the cost of those for tonight.
What is your recommendation?
I'm not sure that was.
I would like to see, each business pay their fair portion of the improvements, but to put an extra burden on a business that's been there and has been operational for many years, I wouldn't encourage to put an extra burden, but at the same time, I would like to address a safety concern for the people that use the business leaving the parking lot. So that's where I think the fair share comes in. And with that, I would be willing to move forward.
So just to clarify, there is an agreement in place between both businesses to share the burden of
I'm sorry, who's speaking, please?
Commissioner Mora.
Oh, thank you.
So
I didn't see you on the screen there.
oh, no worries.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no worries, no worries. So I just want to reiterate that there is an agreement between the city and both businesses that they will share the burden of the cost to put up the delineators, correct?
Good question, Commissioner Mora. The agreement is between each establishment and the city count and the planning commission as a condition of approval, not within each other, but between Starbucks and the planning
City.
commission, the
Okay.
city,
Okay.
and then right now what we're discussing is between Taco Bell and the city.
Okay, so,
Correct.
okay, that's what I wanted to make sure, because that was my understanding, so I wanted to make sure that
Sure.
there is a contractual obligation for each business to pay their fair share, regardless of whoever goes first.
Correct.
With the construction of the building.
Correct.
So, I definitely understand, the sentiment of the commission regarding, wanting, and I definitely with applicants as well, to want to know what the cost is of the installation of the delineators, because I definitely would if I were them as well. At the same time, I know this applicant it's been over a year, I believe, is going through the process, so, if we can get those numbers, I know that they're eager to get started with the remodel, because every time every day that that it prolongs, it's gonna increase the cost to them. So, unless the applicant, would like the board to the commission to not approve this at this time until we receive the estimate, I can't see not approving this going forward, knowing that we have the agreements in place. I know the information that I believe Mr. Moss was requesting wanting to know if Starbucks paid their fair share up front. It also paid the $195,000 up front. But obviously we can't add that information because this is a separate project. But with that, if you have information, do we know that Starbucks has paid their $195,000 towards the cost for the underground of the existing overhead utilities and the raised medium?
Good question, Commissioner Mora, and like you said, we had to dig into it, but my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, Amber, it was a condition of approval as well, and as it is with this project, they will need to pay. I believe the condition states until prior to issuance of a building permit, which Starbucks, my understanding, has not obtained a building permit either. So we wouldn't have that yet if it was a similar condition. But that is correct. They were required as well.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure that every applicant is being treated fairly, and we're not circumventing the process for any applicant whatsoever. Whether their business is new or has been established here in the city of Hollister for many years, I don't necessarily take that into consideration. Whether we should favor a business that's been here for a while compared to a new business. A business is a business, and my personal feeling is I want to ensure that we're doing the correct thing, the right thing, the fair thing, regardless if a business has been here 30 years or brand new here. So I just want to make sure that the process is fair and consistent. So
I concur, Sal. Thank you. Any other commissioners wish to speak on this item?
I have a question. There's the delineators are the only way to do this? There's no other temporary way to do this? I mean, I've been in San Jose and I've seen where they have turned, you can't make a left turn. They drew a solid white line, or they even put cones up. It was temporary until they built the actual, the structure itself. I mean, the city could provide, a no left turn sign, police enforcement. Why hold something up?
I'm sorry, who was speaking there?
Jose Fernandez.
Oh, thank you, Jose.
Looking at it from the business side of it, it can't be that big of a cost. It could be a temporary situation. You just make it so you can't make a left turn. You put no left turn sign, and then you use parking enforcement. People will learn not to do it until you get the berm up. I don't know.
I say that, to hold this project up for, the longer it's held up, the more costly it's going to be. I would like to make a decision tonight one way or the other.
We have the city acting engineer with his hand raised. If it's okay, he would like to speak.
Yes, Mark, go ahead.
Hi, I found some cost data from Caltrans cost data. So it's probably a little more expensive than it would cost for a private developer to install. But for these delineators run about $60-ish each. If we placed them at 4 feet on center for 175 feet, there would be 44 of them, which means that the total cost would be less than $3,000. There would be probably some traffic control that would be needed to add in there, but we're talking about relatively quick procedure. So we're talking about maybe a total cost of $10,000. And the reason that we didn't include it in the cost estimates was was my thinking behind it was, and I may have been wrong, the cost estimates were to cover the permanent improvements of undergrounding and the median. So at any rate, I wanted to get you guys that cost data, and that's from Caltrans. So that does include prevailing wage prices, which a private developer, as long as there's no city funds in there, would not have to pay prevailing wage.
And again, the bottom line cost is, Mark?
For the delineators themselves installed is about $3,000 for the full stretch, and then there would be traffic control, which would probably bring it up to around 10,000 total, which would be split between the two. That's the proposal.
Thank you, Mark. Any other comments from the commission? What's the pleasure of the commission on this item?
I could just interrupt really quickly as a reminder, whoever motions for the conditional use permit, the city is requesting that the 20 parking spaces that the applicant was proposing, that the city would ask that it's reduced to 18 to get rid of the 2 parallel parking spaces adjacent to the drive-through aisle.
Thank you, Amber, for that. And Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes.
We do have the hands raised of Mr. Philip Moss once again, and we understand you already closed the public hearing, but if you would like to reopen it, just wanted to let you know that he has his hands raised again.
Well, considering all these issues that we're discussing, I'll one final time, Mr. Moss, please be brief.
Okay, I'll be very brief. There was a misstatement. There is not an agreement between us and the city or us and anybody else about the divisors. That said, now that we have a price, we can agree to it. But we didn't have a price, so it could have been open-ended. We didn't know. So that's simple.
All right, very well. I'm glad you got that information tonight. Thank you. Okay. What is the pleasure of the commission on this item? Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
We have 2 motions. We have the site and architectural and also the conditional use permit.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the site and architectural review 2021-1, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolutions, with a subject that the cost of the delineals is to be shared between the 2 constructions going on for Taco Bell as well as Starbucks, and the cost not to exceed the $10,000.
And that's Planning Commission Resolution 2021-10.
And that's PC Resolution 2021-10.
I have a motion. Any further discussion on that motion?
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if we should just clarify that for this applicant, that it's half of the 10,000. We should be more clear about that.
Do you agree with that request, Mr. Munster? Clarify your.
Yeah, that's correct. I think I thought I had mentioned that in my motion, was
Okay.
the cost to be shared fairly.
And I see the planning
Yeah,
director's
that
head
was
nodding, so I
$10,000.
believe so, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the motion? Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Site and architectural.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, since we are all conducting this over Zoom, may I ask if you do that by roll call, please?
Absolutely. Can I have a roll call on that motion, please?
Certainly, Chairperson Heboy. We'll start with Commissioner Roxanne Stevens,
Aye.
Commissioner Seth Munzer,
Aye.
Commissioner Salvador Mora,
Aye.
Commissioner Jose Fernandez,
Aye.
and Chairperson David Heboy.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
You're welcome. Okay, that brings us to the conditional use permit. Do I have a motion on that?
I'll make the motion to adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit for 2021-3, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolutions, with the recommendations from the city to have the 18 parking stalls.
Further discussion on the motion? Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
And Mr. Commissioner, Chairman, I'm sorry to ask again.
And
if
we'll
that
ask
be
a
done
roll
by-
call on the motion too.
Thank you.
Certainly, thank you.
Well, for formality, go ahead. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Do I have a roll call on that motion, please?
Certainly, thank you. Commissioner Roxanne Stevens,
Aye.
Commissioner Seth Munzer,
Aye.
Commissioner Salvador Mora,
Aye.
Commissioner Jose Fernandez,
Aye.
and Chairperson David Huboy.
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes.
Congratulations.
Good luck to you guys on the project.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, congratulations and good luck.
We go to new business. Do we have new business to report?
There is no new business to report at this time, Chairperson Huboy, thank you.
You're welcome. Any old business to report?
There is no old business at this time, Chairperson Huboy, thank you.
Planning Department reports?
We do have a few planning department reports, Mr. Chair. First, we would like to thank and give our gratitude to Commissioner Kevin Henderson for his great work at the Planning Commission. He served the Planning Commission very diligently, and we are very grateful for him to have served and be so kind and gracious to our precious community. So we would like to give gratitude to him for his time in the Planning Commission. And with that said, we would also like to welcome our newest Planning Commissioner, Mr. Jose Fernandez. Thank you so much, Mr. Fernandez, for your commitment to our City of Hollister Planning Commission. Welcome aboard. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Yes, applause.
Right.
Yeah, welcome, Mr.
Thank you.
Fernandez.
Thank you. We would also, I would also like to congratulate our planners, Eva Kelly and Amber Cameron. They have recently been promoted from assistant planners to associate planners in the city of Hollister. Very well deserved. They have been in the city of Hollister for a little over 2 years. I think now almost 3 years now. 3 years now. So we are really grateful for all of their hard work. They have been on it since the very beginning. They've learned so much and they've done great work for the city of Hollister. And talking to other planners from other cities and doing research and what other cities do, a lot of the times, especially on bigger cities like in San Jose, assistant planners are usually focused on one specific aspect for the whole day: zoning determination letters, home occupations, specifically, basically throughout the day. Our planners here have pretty much done it all, from site and architectural reviews, conditional use permits, tentative maps, pre-zoning for annexations, general plan amendments. So they've been on it and they've learned very fast and they've done a great job. So they have a well-deserved promotion from assistant planners to associate planners. And so I want to thank them for all of their service so far and look forward to working with them now in their new positions. So thank you, Eva and Amber.
Thank you,
Yes,
Eva
thank
and
you for all your
Amber.
hard work.
Congratulations, you two.
Very well deserved.
All right. Any other reports regarding old business or planning department reports, excuse me?
That,
Abraham?
that concludes our planning department reports. Thank you.
Okay, I have a planning commissioner report regarding the general plan update. Be very brief. After welcoming Roxanne and our 3 new members from the general public, Chris Evans, Larry Rebecki, and Carol Johnson, we discussed community services and parks and recreation, new school funding, open space and farmland mitigation, sensitive habitats, heritage trees, coordination with local tribes, and environmental justice. We had I thought, a very productive, in-depth conversation on those items. And our next GPAC meeting will be next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And we'll be getting into the economic development and circulation, and also inclusionary housing. So I encourage the general public to, if you want to find out more about the process that we're going through, go to hollister240.org, and you can find out ways to participate in this process. And the more we can, of the general public, we can garner to participate in this, the better off this document will be and provide ownership for all our citizens. And that concludes, I think that was, yeah, that is my report. Thank you. Any other planning commissioner reports? Before we go into adjournment, I'd like to have consensus from the commission that we adjourn in the memory of Abraham's father, who recently passed away. So I'd like a moment of silence for Abraham's father,
Thank you.
and then we'll adjourn. I'll have a motion for adjournment.
A second.
We are adjourned into
April 22nd.
April 22nd. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night,
Night.
guys.
Good night.